Hey, Sound Engraver here. So I'm just looking over my score, over some different elements for my composition process. So there were some colors, some instrumentation that I liked, so I wanted to work with this. But it's really, this is my first time recording my composition process, so we'll get right to it. It should be fun. So let's start from the beginning, start from what I do. When composing a piece of music, first off, I'm quite intuitive. While I have a set of skills and while I have some code or some instruments modified in Logic Pro, while I have material I tend to work in, I usually just start from that moment. I start listening to different things I like and work from that. I begin with a kernel. And that kernel really happens with a section in the music. So maybe something I like with this instrument, these embellishments here, if it still works. Maybe I hear something, I'm like, oh, I want to work with that. And then I try to put that in a piece of music. But these are embellishments, meaning, you know, that they're what I like to say is oral garnish of the main course. Beautiful, but not altogether necessary. I like to start with the meat and potatoes, and for that, I go primarily to, really firstly to percussion, my percussion section, including my kick, and also some you know, maybe some hi-hat or different textures that you had just heard there. And then I work with a bass line. And sometimes I do bass first, but really percussion and bass, you know, that infrastructure of the piece, you know, it's without a good bass, I think, and also percussion, but really with bass, I see it like a beautiful house with no floor, so you can't live in the house. So if I get the bass right, we're good to go. But enough of me talking. Let's go ahead and begin. Okay, so for my material, I have established a tempo, as you can see here, and then I have my score. So for my percussion, I have synths that are using sound files. And for my bass line, as well as my you know, tonal embellishments, those will be MIDI instruments, that will be MIDI data. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and record each instrument, each percussion instrument, one at a time, and then we're going to throw them into Audacity and Logic. So why don't we just get started? So as you may have seen, I evaluated it about 3 or 4 times to get a different array each time. So when P Chef was evaluated, it took these values in the array, lined them up in a random order, and then within that sequence, reiterated over and over until I evaluated this block of code again. So that should give us some interesting meter, and if I don't like it, I can just do a straight kick, you know, just 1, 2, 3, 4, and all that. All right, so the next instrument, and for now, I think it'll be the only instrument, only kick, and also this boutique instrument. Again, this instrument is the Boutique 78 found in Logic Pro, if that is at your disposal. So I will go ahead and record this, and just to be safe, run this T tempo clock again. All right, so that should be good. So I'm gonna go into my SuperCollider recordings folder, and let's just make sure these are good to go. Sounds good to me. And our embellishments. All right, so I'm just gonna go ahead and drag these over to the desktop. And now I'm gonna go ahead and load up Audacity. Actually, it's here. Good, yes, it's nice and ready for us. Let's just start with the kick. And just line it up like that. And run it once. I actually like that bit right there. I like the rhythm that has. Now this, I take an extra step. This might be totally unnecessary, but for quantization purposes and maybe safety, I'd like to select it and go to Effect and make sure the tempo is at 104, which was the tempo I used in SuperCollider. And from there, yeah, I think the amplitude's fine. I can always change it. From there, I'm going to go ahead and save Other, export as wave, call it kick, and we should be ready. Now let's just make sure that's there. Sounds good. Now we're going to go ahead and use our other file for our percussion instrument. Run that all the way. Just want to make sure, I didn't do this with the kick, so I'll have to double check that, but make sure it's right on that attack. And let's see. Sounds pretty good to me. And I think it's the same. Mm-hmm. Good, good. Yes. I'll go ahead and call this high perk. And make sure, oh, uh-oh, there, I'm gonna move myself. All right, that is good. So I actually just go ahead and delete those. I'm gonna put these up here so I can move myself again. There we have it. All right, so we've got the sound files in order, and I may add the other percussion maybe for another time. But with that, I will just use kick and those high percussion embellishments. All right, so let's go ahead and put that over to kick. Sure. I forgot to delete it. Okay. I think that's right. All right, so I believe that's right. All right, let's just take a listen for now. All right, and I think I'm just gonna do a standard 16 bar phrasing, or at least as the start of the structure. So we'll just go ahead and do that. Now, to make sure it's quantized properly, or making sure it's at the right tempo, what I like to include is a BPM counter. And we are at 104 by SuperCollider and also in Logic Pro. So let's make sure we have that in order. Looking good, looking good. Now, let's do the same for, oh, looks like I have it already. Cool. I'm prepared. All right, just for that, we'll get rid of you and solo you and make sure you're good to go. Right on. All right, so I won't need to quantize that, at least not for right now. So together it sounds like, let's start at the beginning. Right off the bat, I'm not that impressed, but it's a good kick at the start of it. It is a good kick, so we'll work with that and then maybe add in some embellishments there. Now, what we do have is a kick, and now we're going to record our bass line. Because it's soloed. Yes. There we are. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and boost up the volume. Yeah. I think I'm just gonna go ahead and do that a little bit more. All right, so now we're on our bass track, which is MIDI instrument. We're gonna go back to SuperCollider. I'll leave Audacity up for now and just go ahead and run our bass line and record it in Logic. Okay, so that was stuttered, and this is quite common in my composition practice. So let's go ahead and line that up, make sure that is quantized to the nearest 16th note. And let's hear how it sounds now. All right, so I'd like to get it clean right off the bat. Two things I want to do. This first part of the bass, I think I'm just going to go with that. Let's see. Might have been it too. All right. All right, let's see what this sounds like. Okay, so, yeah, I think, let's try, see, this is the process. I'm always doing it this way, where I just kind of correct myself. All right, let's see, this should work. For now, we're just gonna go with this. And for the bass, I'd like to re-record. I'm not impressed with it right now. Let's go ahead and back into SuperCollider. And I will start with this first. It is so close. This harmonic key, there are a couple of keys that I've not touched on in other videos. Legato, I'd actually have to look that up again, but it provides just a little bit of, I believe, kind of a swing or a form of expression like articulation, but I'd have to double check on that. Harmonic actually is not really a part of the harmonic series or anything to do with overtones or partials. Or actually it may, but I use it in the context of an octave. So the value 0.5 is, I believe, 1 octave lower, and the value 1 is the original octave, I believe. I could be getting that backwards. So I'm going to keep it low there. And, you know, I think I'm going to have a little bit longer release between a very short release and a long release. We're going to try this again. I stopped it right when it had that little tail. Oh well. But yeah, that's the gist. Man, when I did a rehearsal, it sounded so much better. This is the part of SuperCollider where sometimes SuperCollider is just awesome in its output, and then it's like, oh, okay, we'll work with this. So let's make sure that all these are quantized, and let's also make sure they are all lined up. Whoops, I went too far. No, I don't think I did. Well, maybe I did, but too late now. All right, let's try this. Okay, I'm gonna go on a hunch, and I go on a lot of hunches when I compose. I'm gonna get rid of this. And that's actually not bad. It's a little off, but yes. Let's hear. Let's hear from here. A little hard, a little hard. So I would say I like the beginning. It's a little off, but I can fix that later. I'm gonna move these down. And I think for now, I'm sure there's a lot of good material here. I didn't really hear a lot of good material. There's potential. But let's, I'm just gonna fix this just a little bit. All right, so I'm gonna work with that for now. But this is one of those cases where I like a little bit of it, but this would be, you know, a re-recording of SuperCollider and showing me what I can do there. But that is time consuming, so for the sake of having a shorter video, I'll just go ahead and work with what I have and show you any updates along the way. So for now, let's just go ahead and, you know, repeat this. Oh, let's see. There we go. I was thinking 16 bars, but actually you go up to 17. All right. All right. Cool. So, before we get into embellishments, I do want to, I'm gonna go ahead and just call this kick. I just like to keep it simple, if I can. Let's hear once more the high pitch percussion. All right, that was pretty interesting. So now that we have the kick and the bass line, that last half of the percussion here sounded pretty promising. So I'm just going to go ahead and for structure, get rid of that first bit of recording where it was just at the rate at the value of 1. So let me just go ahead and get rid of that. Let's see how that sounds. We want to make sure. All right, not bad. I'm not a fan of the bass line. That's gonna have to change, but you get the idea. I mean, again, there are some good things there, but something has to be fixed. So moving along, let's go ahead and add our embellishments. Let's make sure they're at an appropriate volume. Okay, so let's go ahead and work with that. And all right, so yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and make sure it's running at the tempo and record it. Oh, let's double check if it's on the right track. It is. That actually had a nice chill to it, and it actually kind of improved the bass. So, you know, that's the part of the process. Sometimes I don't like it, and then something improves it, you know, something outside like another instrument. Again, I think I'm going to fix the bass, but yeah, I like that chill kind of upbeat but very sparse feel, which brings to mind a bit of structure, and that is maybe I generally like an intro with maybe some percussion, some bass, maybe some textures that you hear around your head, and then introducing harmony and melody. That's been my structure for the past few compositions, at the very least. So I would generally keep it at that intro at that. So without further ado, I'm gonna just go ahead and transition over to Logic and over to my Oxygen keyboard and let's just mess with some harmony. Okay, so now we're completely in Logic and we're going to go ahead and try to work on a harmony with this. So let's have a listen and get a feel for what the harmony is. For my harmonic instrument, it's not the greatest instrument in the world, but I never try to refine the instruments until I have the structure of the piece. Structure is always first, and actually I'll be working on the structure as I go along in this week, but structure first, and then the editing process or the tweaking process, which is, you know, changing the instruments up a little. But we have what we have, so let's go ahead and have a listen and work with some harmony. I believe with this, I believe it's a Chinese mode, a scale mode that I used in SuperCollider. I thought it was a B minor because the MIDI note was B. I think it was 59 or 47 if you carry it down one octave. But according to that scale, that particular Chinese scale, it's very much predominantly C sharp minor. So I have to work with my 4 sharps on my keyboard. I am not a pianist, so we'll have fun with that. But I know my scales, so that's enough. So anyway, let's go ahead and have a listen. All right, so how I work in harmony is I usually start with like the tonic, in this case C sharp minor, and I work with different modal mixtures, you know, maybe a raised sixth and common tone modulation. I'm not a fan of key modulation in which a song starts in one key and then moves up to a key. Or I like I think Rush or some you know, very famous artists. They sometimes take the key modulation, the key down a few steps, and I think that's well done sometimes. But in terms of modulation, common tone modulation, in which I just really sustain 2 or more notes in a chord and just move up 1 or 2 notes. So with that in mind, we'll just try it. Just in case, we'll have our quantization on, and we'll go ahead. We don't need the metronome, right? All right, so I was really botching that. C sharp minor is kind of hard on the keyboard, so that's what it is. But let's take a look at what I do have that I did like. So, oh, there was a shortcut for this, cleaning up these edges here, and I am blanking on that shortcut. All right, let's have a listen. I think that's okay. Should probably raise the velocity here. I'm such a perfectionist when it comes to my edges. There's a shortcut, I just can't remember right now. All right. So I think that's fine. What I'm going to do is I'm going to copy these. I may copy this. And then make that a nice, I think it's going to be a B minor chord. I don't know. Let's have a listen. Oh my goodness. I want that B minor chord somewhere. Let's try this. Then actually falling on the last beat, if you will, really the last 8 counts, being the tonic before repeating on the tonic again. Let's see how that sounds. And some of it works, I think. I would have to restructure the chords just a little bit, but it's got a bit of mood. It's got a bit of character. So yes, that's it. You know, of course I can't really compose a whole piece without the video being 6 or 7 hours long, even probably longer than that. So, but that's really the starting point where I just, roll with it with whether it's audio files or MIDI virtual instruments as you see here in Logic. But that's how I start. And so maybe the next video, I'll show you a bit on, structuring the piece and seeing how I do that there. But you got your kick, you got a little bit of percussion there with some bass and some harmony and also some embellishments. And before you know it, you will have your melody as well. So I think I'll stop there. I thank you for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and maybe we'll do some more composition together, or maybe some, just showing you the process, my process on what that is. So anyway, thank you always for watching and listening, and always be on the lookout every Thursday for some sound experimentation, and I will see you next time.